Oh.
It is so beautiful. And I stopped and talked.
We have a call to order for the Bartlett Economic Development Commission for the month of September. Roll call, Tony?
Oh, I had no idea.
Cabasso?
Because I just thought of it. And I thought it is so beautiful.
And now you know.
Celia Green?
So beautiful on the outside.
Celia Green?
Here.
Ayan Matha?
Yes.
Tracy Smadilla? Donna
Present. Yeah.
Robert Perry? Here. Nan Gudenkauf?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, next item on the agenda would be the approval of the June 13th, 2016 meeting minutes. Do we have any discussion on it, or do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes from June 13th meeting.
A second.
Okay, motion carries. Next item on the agenda would be approval of the July 4th.
We would need to,
We have to have a vote, Jerry.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Minutes?
Yeah.
You had a second, that should be enough. Okay, we'll need an approval on the June minutes. Do we have
I'll read it. Donna Ware?
all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. You just, I'll do a roll call since I started it. Tracy Smadilla?
Yes.
Cecilia Green?
Yes.
Ayan Matha?
Yes.
Robert Perry? Yes. Nan Gudenkauf?
Abstain.
And Jerry Cabasso? Approved.
Approved. Okay, next would be the approval of the July 14th, 2016 special joint meeting minutes. Any discussion?
I make a motion that we approve the July 14th, 2016 special joint meeting minutes.
A second.
Okay. Roll call on approval?
Donna Ware?
Yes.
Tracy Smadilla?
Yes.
Celia Green?
Yes.
Ayan Matha?
Yes.
Robert Perry? Yes. Jerry Cabasso?
Yes.
Nan Gudenkauf?
Abstain.
Approved.
Okay, moving right along. Next, we have a downtown TOD plan update.
good evening, Jerry and Economic Development Commission members. Tonight we have a few guests in the audience who are participants from Bartlett Heritage Days, so we were hoping they could come up and before the rest of the agenda tonight and give a brief overview of their experiences and how Heritage Days just went, our big annual event in downtown Bartlett that was just this past weekend. So I'll turn it over to our audience members. Please make sure the microphone is on.
Is that, there's a green light down there? Okay, if the green light's on, it should be.
Oh, now the green light's on. Roseanne. I'm Dale Ann Kasuba. I'm too close. I'm one of the committee members for Bartlett Heritage Days and a resident of Bartlett. And I coordinated the craft show and the village birthday party in the park. And I thought Heritage Days went swimmingly. We had kind of a slower start because it was rainy Saturday morning, so that was a little tricky. But we rode through that, and Saturday afternoon was very successful. There was a steady stream of people coming through town center, through the craft fair, and then we had some volunteers, a bunch of volunteers actually, a lot of kids from Bartlett High School, which was really helpful, who helped put together the birthday party in the park. And we had cakes from Costco and balloons. And we did our first community marketplace in the park, and that went really well. Patty Foss coordinated that. She did an excellent job. And then she did a random acts of kindness. Did you see that? I saw that post. She did, it was really cute. Anyways, so everything in the park went really well. The only downside might have been the weather. More people might have turned out, I think, if the weather had been a little better that morning. But the township was great. They put up the tents. Everything went really well, I thought. And then we had the wheelman on the closed part of Oak Avenue, and that was popular. On Sunday, there was the Birds of Prey, and that was popular as well. Meanwhile, the Bartlett Booster Club ran a train. They have a train that they, I guess they own for their own uses, and they were kind enough to bring that and offer rides. I think they were $1 a ride probably to cover gas, because there is some cost with that. We put up a wall. We closed the street between the railroad tracks and Oneida, and we had a climbing wall there that was rented, and that looked like it was pretty popular. There was a few kids on it every time I went by. And the craft show was successful. It had hundreds of people flowing through the craft show, and we had, I think it was probably due to the village's 125th birthday, but we had like 45 crafters, and I'm not quite sure how many flea market and Jewelers Row participants, but I would say at least that many, which for us is probably double what then the number of people we had in prior years. So that was really excellent, because I felt like I was spending money all over the place to make the event happen. So I was happy that there was vendors coming in to help offset some of that, and same with the sponsors. It would be great, I think, in the future to try to have maybe one or two larger sponsors. We do get a lot of sponsors from the village who contribute $100 or $250 and as much as $500, which we certainly appreciate. But it would be nice that hopefully at some point we'll be able to convince someone to, other than the village obviously contributes a great deal of money, which we couldn't do the Heritage Days without. But so hopefully that, those kind of things will improve for us. But as far as all the events, everything went off without a hitch, I think. I don't think there was any complaints or any issues that I know of. I didn't hear of any. And then Sunday was very successful with the trolley and the car show. The car show seemed like it was double in size this year too, with really good, really beautiful historic or classic cars. So that was really nice, because I've been there times before and I was like, I'm sorry, I hope I don't offend anyone when I say this, but there have been PT Cruisers there. I do not consider a PT Cruiser a classic car. It's just me. I'm sure it's a lovely car, but anyway, so this year they had all kinds of interesting vehicles, so that was really great. And I don't know, I thought it went really well. You have anything to add, Roseanne? I'm sure I left things off.
No, yeah. I'm Roseanne Durango. I'm also on the committee, and we host on our site. We raised money for Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, and we raised $855 this year, so we were happy. The concert on Saturday night at Banbury was very successful. Both Friday and Saturday, but especially Saturday, that was very, very busy. I go around and ask people, vendors, we had the Jewelers Row people, they really like going down Oak like that. One of the reasons we started that was because someone had come up to me and said, we should have, it looked more like Gilmore Girls in Stars Hollow. Has anybody watched that? I know that's a Hollywood thing, but the whole idea of a townsy, and a homegrown festival like that. It's not a slick festival. In Naperville, they pay $2,000 to be a vendor. We charge what for the food vendors, $50 or $50, but it also reflects on the prices that they charge. And I had a lot of people I said, where did you come from? St. Charles. I saw this on Hampshire. That people from Hampshire came out to see the band, and a lot of comments were, I don't feel like I'm gouged here. And it's a fun little festival and more cutesy. And we tried to get that whole idea, and the road closed helped. It'd be really cool if we could would be to close Oak down to our place, because that's one of the nice. I know that's where my business is, but that's one of the neater looking places in Bartlett, because it's got the trees and it looks hometowny. And it just one of the reasons I got involved with this is because I thought, what if we get somebody, I'm a business owner and have a lot of invested into the town, but what if somebody came to one of these festivals and said, oh, what a cute town, I want to put a blah, blah here, or whatever, because otherwise they don't really know about Bartlett. So that's why we continue doing it. But anyway, so overall, everything went really well.
Did any buskers show up?
We had a couple, the only couple this year. That was a little disappointing, because that was a neat thing. That Angie and Aloda had the bands in front of her place. Yeah. They were a little harder rock, but it was good to hear music. And then in the park on Saturday, we had the band played, and then the U.S. Army band, the 144th. They were really good, but they had to be in the gazebo because it was drizzling, and drizzle and instruments don't mix. So they were good. And then later in the afternoon, there was some church had a group, and it was nice. The music around town is nice. It'd be nice. One of the things I saw at another festival is where they had a PA system that's different vans around, and so you could say, "Hey, over now in the park, we got this going on," so people know. That's because we had more going on this time. I think we need something like that. It's just our budget. I don't remember. Maybe you know better. For the whole thing, is not that much. I mean, we don't really spend that much, so we don't really want it to make it too commercial. But
Yeah, I
also,
think the goal is to have about 2,000 towards next year left over, but the goal is to spend as much money as we have
Right.
except for that.
we may not have much left over, though. I think they said because we did, hire the wheelmen were really neat. It was if anybody saw that, they were in those big bicycles going down the street, and that sort of was what it's supposed to be about, heritage. And
And then
I had a DuPage Valley Settler group, and they're always good. 7 years they've been coming, so they were on my corner.
and I heard that the 125th anniversary T-shirt sales went pretty well too.
People were looking for commemorative things. I
Yeah.
thought maybe in the future an ornament or, I don't know, something. But they seemed, several questions for that. But as I said, people who did not live in Bartlett seemed, this is cute here, and this is nice. So, we're trying. Any other questions, or?
Yeah, I just have a brief question, and it's, first of all, I love the idea that it is such a homegrown festival and that you have such a low sponsorship cost for the vendors to participate, and I think that's especially important for the the smaller businesses, particularly for crafters and jewelers. But you'd put an appeal out for larger sponsors. You wanted something a little more than the $100 or $200 checks. In your marketing plan, what are you doing to appeal to those larger sponsors, and what is it that you're looking?
This year I went back to being the person sort of was doing sponsorships because the other lady had a baby and she couldn't do it. And I had all the other stuff going on. I wrote letters. Were provided by Tony, some of the businesses. I tried to write letters to some of those bigger businesses out, yeah, and we didn't hear a word. And it probably, in their defense, I mean, I get those every day. Somebody looking for money, and it's like, oh, no. But the thing is, if we had the manpower, somebody to go talk to them and show them. I mean, I've got the video. We always make a book every year to explain it, perhaps. Because you see other festivals, Roselle, and they'll have major businesses,
Right.
giving them money. The most we get from anyone is $500. Somebody,
The village.
in the village, yeah, definitely. We couldn't do it without. Township was really 500, I think. No, they were fantastic with the garbage. They took care of garbage and put up tents, and we used to do that all ourselves.
Right.
So the 5 of us.
Yeah, the in-kind donations are really very valuable to programs like this. But
Right.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not real good with asking for people for money, so I don't know how to. My receptionist does that.
Well, I hope to support you in the future because I think that would be, I know how to ask for money and
We
be a
actually
part
need
of
someone
your
on the board that
organization.
can do that. Yeah, it's just
Yeah, and I think about some of the larger companies we have,
right. We're learning this stuff as we go along.
and you're doing a great job. It's
Fun. This is tiring. I'm exhausted. I'm all dirty and. Yeah. And then when the Wheelman and the Daily Herald gave a nice write-up, yesterday's paper, second page of the second page of the main section, they showed the Army band and the Wheelmen and wrote up a nice thing about it. Yeah. And then I do the website. I put pictures. I'll put more pictures. I just haven't had a chance. And we had a guy that donated his to do aerial shots. He has like a drone thing. They're fantastic pictures because you see beautiful pictures. He very nice man, and he came from Carroll Stream. His wife was in the park doing the community network thing with the Mothers Club, and so that was nice. So you can see those.
That's good.
Yeah. It's nice to see high school kids do that.
Huge help, huge help.
Yep.
That was fabulous.
I thought that was better. And it is a little frustrating. If you want- The negative is, wish we could get more Bartlett people. We have 42,000, and I know they're not all shopping at the only grocery store, Jewel. That's a whole nother story. No, but I mean, I don't know how we can get people out. And the Bears, we got the Bears on Sunday, but that's always been. So I don't know. Suggestions for that too would be great.
Well, you'll get there. You're building it. They will come, really and truly.
It seems like they're coming more and more. So anyway, any other questions?
And then, Tony, you had commercials running in Schaumburg, right, for Heritage Days? The cable?
Yeah, it's one of our later agenda items, but we ran some ads during the Olympics. But Cecilia, in this case, it didn't run. Yeah, you're correct. Bartlett is part of the Schaumburg cable.
Oh, okay.
So it runs, they have their own geographical boundaries for cable, and it picks up Hanover Park, Bartlett, and part of Schaumburg is our cable zone, and Wayne. So we were in that, ran 475 ads during the Olympics, during the Olympic telecast.
And then we also, part of this, the second part of this is the Halloween Fun Fest, which will be Saturday, October 29th, 10 to 2. That's well attended, although last year it rained, but that was the first. It poured. It poured.
This year it should be lovely.
But that's a big one because the people love. I know as a parent, you buy those expensive costumes and then they wear it once, So this way they get a chance to wear it again, or not. They love dressing up.
And all the sponsors that are 500, or is it 500 and 250, are also
50.
sponsors of the Halloween Fest. So their business can be on the map and they can participate at no charge.
And that's fun to see. The kids walking around town like that. And you get a lot. We get a lot. That's grown each year. That's it. That's all I can think of.
Thank you very much for your commentary. Tony? Item number 5, TOD plan update.
Thank you, Jerry. Back to our downtown TOD plan that's been before the Economic Development Commission, and last month also 2 other commissions, the Plan Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is a big project. I really don't need to explain to all of you again, but we've been working on it for well over a year now. I just looked up today, the kickoff meeting was August 11th of 2015. And I'll share with you, I had been working on it for about a year at that point when it started. So this is a long-term project. Many of you last month were at the joint 3-commission meeting, somewhat of an unprecedented meeting to present the plan. And we had the consultants from SCB, Solomon Cordwell Benz, and following that presentation to the 3 commissions, opened it up for a public hearing and took in some commentary, and ultimately it received a positive recommendation from the 3 commissions. So from there, the plan came before the Committee of the Whole last month, in August, and then it came back up to the September 6th meeting for final vote. Now, that was not approved at the last meeting, as I was hoping to report to you tonight. It has been tabled for the time being. As you all know, there's a component within the TOD plan that calls for the redevelopment of Bartlett Plaza, or I should be more specific and say a portion of Bartlett Plaza, the building that has the empty grocery store in it. And we've spoken about it at the EDC, at numerous community meetings held at Bartlett Hills. We've spoken to the Gorskys about it, but that came up as an issue of how it may impact some of the businesses that are currently located there. So there's going to be a few more discussions and a little bit more research to be done, but it is coming back before the committee. By my understanding, it comes back to the committee in the first October meeting. I believe that's October 4th, and then scheduled to return to the village board again for their second October meeting, which would be the 18th. So it is still a work in progress. I had, and also one of my colleagues, Roberta Grill, who's instrumental in this plan. We're the two village staff representatives in the steering committee for this project. Commissioner Smadilla served, I should say still serves on the steering committee for it because it's still an active plan in progress, and we're still flushing out a few possible details that we're addressing. We hope that it gets passed, but since this project originated from an EDC recommendation that was made nearly 3 years ago, back in October of 2013. I always tell you all that I'll keep you up to date on what's going on with it. It's a very strong plan, very detailed. You've seen it many times. It goes property by property and addresses a lot of different components of the downtown. But that is the status of it right now, as it's currently been tabled by the village board.
Tony, did the village board cite any specific examples or details that would bring them to the conclusion of tabling?
Okay.
There was a town hall session, and at the town hall session, a business owner in the Bartlett Plaza gave his reasons for why they shouldn't adopt the plan. When it went to vote, the board, one of the trustees voted to approve. The motion was seconded, and then there was a motion to table it, and then there was a second for that, and there was no discussion after the tabling. So one can presume that the statements that were brought up by the one business owner are the issues. And Tony and Roberta are meeting with that business owner to address his concerns. I believe he misunderstood the intent of the plan and also believed that it was going to happen like tomorrow instead of a plan and the phasing structure that was in the TOD plan, that it's a plan that is carrying the downtown area for the next 20 years. So I think after the discussion with that business owner, and he understands what is in the plan, and I think it'll move forward. But there was really, once they did the motion to table, there was no more discussion on it. So that's why and then at the 4th of October meeting, there'll be a rehashing of his concerns and how they were addressed. So hopefully that'll answer the trustees' questions on that.
And those comments are on record from the August, was it a 17th meeting?
It was the September 6th meeting.
Yeah, right. That was at the village board.
Oh, it was just this recent one.
Just this last meeting. Yeah.
Right. The August meeting.
You can hear them on the record.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My memory serves me right. The plan for the Gorski area there was towards the end of a long-term plan. I think that was at the end of 8 or 10 years with a possible tear down and new construction going in its place. I think this was after the 8th year. Is that correct?
It's more or less correct. They had different timelines where Again, they don't have a crystal ball, but it wasn't one of the sites that they identified as the first phase of development, or I should say the next phase of development for the downtown. So yeah, they had it as something that could possibly happen years down the line. It's not something, like Jim said, that was going to happen in 2017.
In the memo that you provided us, it talks about capital being a key component for the plan to move forward. And it says that future meeting staff would like to review ideas with the EDC and the village board regarding capital investment. Are there plans for us to be having any roundtable discussion about capital?
There aren't any plans for that at this point. That is really just throwing an idea out there, because in a lot of the discussions we've already had with developers who've taken an interest in this plan, that's typically the first thing that they bring up is more or less what can the village do to assist us in our redevelopment efforts, or in some cases development efforts, to build something new on an undeveloped site. So that's just something that really Jim and I just added in this memo, because it's going to come up at some point in these discussions, is what can the village do to facilitate or to stimulate development of these sites.
And I remember us having a very brief discussion about that at the July 14th meeting. I had asked Christine Carlisle about, what we might do to seek that type of investment without providing an additional burden to the taxpayer. I think particularly since most municipalities are not waiting for the state to start writing checks to actually cover services that we do need to provide here. Do you think it's a good possibility that the EDC and the board should get together? Or should we pursue that to discuss capital investment or those opportunities?
Yeah, that was written more in the sense of discussing it separately with the EDC on one level, making recommendations to the village board. A lot of times when those opportunities come up is when the EDC is specifically asked to review something or to make a recommendation. The acronym TIF sure came up in these discussions, remembering that our downtown is located in Cook County, so to impose an additional tax like a business improvement district or something like that would be, well, it would be almost impossible to pass, truly, and also too burdensome on property and business owners. Right. So we've kind of come back around again to at least thinking about it, but we're really not at that point yet. That would be a more appropriate discussion for after the TOD plan gets adopted. Or if somebody approaches the village and wants to do one of these projects that we've identified in the plan, and the developers themselves, we can tell you, Jim and I meet with them almost every single day at some point. Usually they'll ask. And it's somewhat come to be expected when you want to develop or redevelop an older property in an older downtown area.
Right, but I do remember Christine mentioning some other grants that might be available to the village without us going to TIF. We would have to make application for them.
Those grants are more in the light of the type of grant that we just got, where it creates things like studies. There are some grants available through the state and federal government occasionally for more of the transportation improvements, but those aren't grants that a town can make available to a developer for a project. Those have to come from the towns themselves. There are some incentives that are offered through Cook County, but those are more property tax abatements after the fact. Those aren't incentives directly to help redevelop a property, but they are incentives to help reduce the tax burden after a property is redeveloped. So we've looked at possible incentives up and down and backwards and forwards. And at least in my opinion, a TIF is still the best redevelopment tool that's out there.
Certainly for the private developer, but as it relates to those transportation dollars that could be available, is that something that we could pursue on a similar track?
Yes.
And again, I think that, you know, again, it's a transportation-oriented district, so if there are funds could be available to us, wouldn't the time be now to start pursuing those as we also sought alternatives for attracting developers without having to pull the TIF trigger?
We're always on the lookout for grant opportunities. A lot of times when they become available, they're sent to communities, and not just Bartlett, they're sent to other towns. This is a whole meeting in itself, but there's not a lot of funds available through the state. And the funds that are coming through to municipalities from the state, Bartlett is already in line for those, for them redeveloping some of the major intersections along Route 59. They don't have any grant monies available at this time for road improvements in the downtown area. The reason the village does get grants from the state for those intersection improvements on Route 59 is due to the fact that Route 59 is a state road. And as you recall from Jim reporting in past months, they stagger those out years in advance. There may be some federal transportation grants available, and it's certainly worth a look, but that's different than incentivizing redevelopment of underutilized or undeveloped properties. Those are two different things.
Okay, thank you.
It appears we have no further discussion on TOD, so we can move on to the item number 6, commercial vacancy update.
Thank you. I bring this item before the EDC typically quarterly. I do update it more often than that, but put it on as an agenda item perhaps every 2 or 3 months. This is something that I've been doing my entire tenure here with the village, and also my predecessors also would provide an up-to-date commercial vacancy list to provide to potential businesses, retailers, offices. And I'm going to do a quick summary of this because, as you all recall, in January we did a large report, and I intend to do it this coming January as well, an economic indicators report. At the same time, we were working on that marketing plan that the EDC spent about 6 months on. And of course, reducing commercial vacancy is really one of the top goals always with the EDC. So with that, the vacancy and occupancy update, I'm going to mention some notable changes. Many of you have seen this or might know it already, that 3 spaces have been leased right across the street in Bartlett Town Center. And for years and years and years, people have been noting the low occupancy rate in Bartlett Town Center. And it's been under 50% for quite a few years. With these 3 leases, it's going up from 49% to 75%. It would actually be a little bit higher than that, although skipping to the end, Fitness Together has vacated their space in the back of Town Center. But there are 3 major leases in Town Center. One of them, I have to give an extra special thank you to a commercial broker from GC Realty who helped facilitate a lease for O'Hare's Pub to relocate from Army Trail Road to Town Center. That would be Commissioner Perry on the end there. And they'll be taking the 4,300 square foot space that was last utilized by Blue Ribbon. I combed through some records to try to find when Blue Ribbon left, and your guess is as good as mine. I'm gonna say it's been about 5 years, perhaps longer. So that's been a vacant space for a very long time. Lionhead Barber Parlor is open already, I'm going to characterize that as a high-end hair salon targeting men customers, younger demographic men customers, I should add. And another business that I visited with today, a new Allstate office. Kevin Rouse is the agent for that. So it's pretty exciting to have 3 leases in town center all at once. So 75% sounds pretty good. There's a few spaces in there that have never been leased and that are still raw spaces. Most notably, there's about a 3,700 square foot space between Marco's and Arts and Bartlett. Had a prospect earlier this year that I was calling nearly every week that had showed some interest in it for an interesting type use. They've pulled back, but that's worth, just thinking about it, it's worth another call because that space has never been filled. It's a difficult space to fill. It doesn't have high visibility, and it goes back. It doesn't have much frontage on the building, but it goes back rather deep. It's never been built out, so somebody would have to come in and completely build it out. Shifting gears, over in Brewster Creek Shopping Center, we all were very happy 2 years ago talking about Walgreens building a new freestanding Walgreens on the corner, but meanwhile they vacated a large 13,000 square foot space. That alone might be worth about a percentage point on the vacancy rate for the village. So staff has been working with a young lady named Miwa Gardy, who has leased it, and she's been building out the space for a business called the Endorphin Effect. She describes it as a multidisciplinary facility with hot yoga, fitness classes, and strength conditioning. So that should be opening in the coming months. I can't say exactly when, but I've driven by there the last 2 weeks, and there's construction crews, and they're transforming a Walgreens into a high-end fitness studio. So as you can imagine, that takes a lot of time and investment, and we're all, as an EDC and a staff, going to have to help boost that business a lot. 13,000 is a big space, and that's an expensive space, I might add. So, that's a business that we really want to thrive. And the same, maybe not quite as exciting, but the first vaping store in the village opened a couple of weeks ago. I want to mention that this year alone, I've probably had a dozen inquiries for vaping and another dozen or so for hookah lounges. And I would first consult Jim on the regulations for them, give them the answers of what they had to do. They're both allowable uses as long as they meet certain conditions. If you drive 10 miles in any direction, you're gonna drive past both types of businesses. So this Smoko Vapor is the first vaping business, and they have, I don't know much about it except that they call it juice, what they vape, and they have over 500 flavors there. So this is their 9th location, so they're all over the place. They're in a location that was formerly occupied by Ultimate Travel Agency for over 20 years, and they have since relocated to Apple Valley Shopping Center. And you all know that better as the one with Dog Father in it, Bao Chinese, Jersey Mike's, north of the border, Edible Arrangements, Great Clips. So they've moved into that center now. Thai Seasons restaurant and the adjacent dry cleaning business has closed, creating a 2,800 square foot vacancy. I didn't write down, but that's called, that's Bartlett Commons Shopping Center. If you go through a few more pages, I've attached some of the flyers for those. That's good news and bad news. The bad news being that that was the village's only Thai restaurant, and now we don't have one. If there's a silver lining to it, it's already built out as a restaurant space, and if you combine it with the dry cleaners next door, that creates a larger potential restaurant space. So there is some interest in it already. I certainly hope to report to you all within the next 3 to 6 months that that space has been filled. Oakfield Center, we've spoken about quite a bit. That's the older shopping center at Oak and Lake Street. They have a new broker, and I've attached the flyer for that. That's a very large, very prominent broker in the Chicago market, I might add, NGKF, and stands for Newmark Grubb Knight Frank. And it's a long name, I know, but that's because they've combined a few of the larger brokerages in Chicago into one that, I'm not going to say it's the largest, CBRE is the largest, but NGKF is probably right there, a few behind them. So I think they're going to be successful in leasing out some spaces. And last but not least, I've put in a flyer for the medical office condominiums at Woodland Hills Professional Center, and they're being marketed now by SVM, that's Sperry Van Ness, and they're a broker that's more of a specialty broker. They're not as big as NGKF by any means, but they specialize more in this DuPage area and a lot of high-end offices and high-end shopping centers. So I have high hopes that, I looked it up today, when I reported the economic indicators in January, our retail and commercial vacancy rate was 19%, which is alarmingly high. And I think with these new businesses that I just mentioned and leases, I can't tell you exactly what it would be. I order reports and it's a lot of research, but I'm going to say that the vacancy rate should be significantly lower by January. And what you have, of course, is the vacancy or commercial vacancy inventory that's on our website. I hand it out at trade shows. There's a trade show next month where I'll be handing it out in Chicago. And also I send it out quite a bit. People just call and ask for it. They say, I'm looking for 2,400 square feet. What do you have? And I shoot this off to them or refer them to it on the website. So that's one of the many services we provide to potential businesses.
And I'm sorry, Tony, would you repeat the current vacancy rate?
The vacancy rate as of January was 19% for commercial. What it is today, if I had to guess, I would say 17 or 16%. But that would be after the endorphin effect. They're not open yet. So that's 13,000. Remember, we're talking about it on a per square foot basis. Mm-hmm. So the vacant former Dominic's space that they referenced earlier, that's 65,000 square feet. And the former Fresh Market space is about half that size. So just those two alone are almost 100,000 square feet of vacancy. And the village only roughly has 1 million square feet. So right there, those two spaces are the main contributors to the high vacancy rate.
Is it possible to pull those out? Obviously those are two unique parcels compared to the rest of the commercial space that we have. If we subtracted those, what would our vacancy rate be?
Well, yeah, if you subtracted those, it would be very healthy. It would probably be a typical in a strong economy, a typical retail vacancy rate's about 10%. So I would love to pull out the two large empty grocery stores as vacancies. Without those, we wouldn't have a vacancy rate problem whatsoever in the town. It would be very strong. It would be probably 90% occupied.
Is Ultimate Travel the only travel agency in town?
They're the only travel agency with a commercial location. Oh. There's people who have home-based businesses, travel agencies. I think Sharon Melcher has been in business with a travel agency in the Chamber of Commerce for decades, but she doesn't have a commercial location. So in terms of commercial locations, yes, you see fewer and fewer of those. Even when I visit with them, I tell them how my wife books all our vacations on various websites. So in some respects, it's interesting that they still have a brick and mortar location, but I visited them 2 or 3 times during their relocation, and every time I'm there, all 4 of their agents are on the phone the whole time. And they're usually booking cruises. So I think people tend to book cruises through travel agencies mostly.
Who are the principals? Who are these women here in the picture?
The owner of it is named Kelly Kosiek, I want to say, Kosiek. And I honestly don't recall the name of, that's one of her travel agents. That's my report on vacancies and occupancies.
Well, Tony, I'd like to say that this took a lot of work, and it's very helpful. I mean, with the pictures and the locations and all the information that's on here.
Thank you.
Anybody who's anywhere interested in anything regarding what's available in Bartlett, they have it all right here. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'm going to piggyback one comment off that, though. I tell people that Bartlett's, for retail and commercial, it's still on the smaller side. So I feel that I know every building and every owner. I can't say that I know every business and every space, but it's the kind of size where you can know that. There's other towns where you couldn't possibly get a grasp on all of that. So myself and Jim and our staff, we try to keep on top of that as much as we can. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I noticed that the location where Marvell's was is on the vacancy list. Are they closed?
Marval's, I don't recall adding it to the vacancy
I thought it
list,
was.
but it's on. I can't comment on it too much, but it's in that state of flux where we expect it to become available. I couldn't tell you honestly if they're totally closed.
I don't think they are. They just have minimal days that they're operating.
Yeah, I've had some people call and ask me, and I've also had other people say they've walked over there in the middle of a weekday and it's closed.
Yeah, they put up a sign that says what days they're open, which is not very many.
Thank you. Thank you, Nan.
Okay, appears we can move on to the next agenda item, the cable television advertising campaign.
Thank you. I was excited to do this. You all know we've delved into the world of cable television advertising last year. I still remember Commissioner Cecilia Green saying to do something big and splashy in the marketing area while we were working on the marketing plan last year. We started promoting local businesses and events on cable TV. And so what I was excited about was our local advertising rep called me with the opportunity back in March to do advertisements during the Olympic broadcast. And it wasn't just during the same days as the Olympics on random channels. It was during the Olympics on the channels showing the Olympics. So we put how many ads? 475 ads at 5,500. When I did the math on that for this memo, I just realized it was almost $12 per running an ad. When we did all those dining ads in the spring, that the restaurants, by the way, have been thanking me of late for that. I was thanked by a restaurant just this past weekend over Heritage Days for doing that, because some of you had asked what the reaction was to that. So those ads were far more reasonably priced, $4,900 for over 2,500 ads. And I guess what that shows you is the supply and demand laws, that if you want to broadcast during the Olympics, that's a rare opportunity. So it costs basically 6 times as much. We ran ads promoting Heritage Days and also another event that's coming up in a few weekends, the Kickstand Classic. I have put the ad is on our village website and Facebook page, but I think what I'll do is email it again tomorrow in case some of you haven't had an opportunity to see it. There's somebody sitting up there at the dais who's featured prominently in the beginning of the ad in a Heritage Days costume. So
Okay. I haven't seen it.
apparently she hadn't seen it. So anyhow, that just concluded. But what I wanted to mention is Small Business Saturday. We usually mention it here at the EDC at our November meeting and just kind of mention that it's happening. But what I've been looking at doing is creating another 30-second advertisement because Bartlett doesn't have a huge shopping area or those big box stores that people flock to in the Woodfield area or in Bloomingdale or some of the surrounding communities, but we do have a lot of mom and pop shops, single proprietor shops. A lot of them come to mind. A lot of them in the building where the Chamber of Commerce is located has 3 of them. So the next advertising campaign I wanted to run by the EDC was to do a Small Business Saturday ad. That would run roughly late October to late November. And I haven't started writing the copy for it, but it would be more or less like come shop Bartlett for Small Business Saturday. We have a lot of small mom and pop type businesses. And then I would show some of them that I mentioned, like the coin shop, the book lady shop. There's a new dress shop called Little Shop on Oak. Banbury Fair, of course. There's a skateboard shop over in Bartlett Plaza. There's an Arts in Bartlett in Town Center. There's a lot of small businesses where people could shop locally. So that would be what I wanted to mention that to the EDC because probably by next month I'll be telling you that I'm working on it already.
I have a question regarding the marketing of this, and I think especially as we think about marketing our cute little downtown and our mom and pop shops. And now I'm thinking about Heritage Days and the Kickstand Classic, and we've got the Halloween Fest coming up. Does the village have a booth or a tent or some place that the community can actually come to get more information and become more acutely aware of what's going on in downtown Bartlett? And I shouldn't just say the residents if I said that. I meant participants in these. I just thought it would be interesting to have some sort of presence at these events that we could hand out information to make people aware of, especially a commerce event like Small Business Saturday.
They haven't done it yet. There hasn't really been an event for Small Business Saturday.
No, I meant boosting awareness of that at other events. I think particularly if the village is writing sponsorship checks to these events, they should have some measure of opportunity to, promote some of the events that they're sponsoring as well.
That's a good idea. Our Chamber of Commerce really is the arm to do that. And they've always been real good at that, handing out literature like the dining guides and other information that we've asked them to. But we haven't had an official Village of Bartlett booth. I would say the Chamber has filled that role.
And the Chamber does that at all of the events?
They do, and actually we're coming out with a new app that will come out in the next month or two. And I'm approached all the time with companies that want us to use their app. And the reason I chose the company that I did was because it was very community oriented. And so it would be, some of them were just focusing on our chamber members, where this one focuses on the village and what's happening in the village. And it would be a good resource for the residents that they would want this free app so that they could look up and see when is the 4th of July parade, what time, and when are the fireworks, and all the different events. And the village has an opportunity to have a section on this app, so I think that will bring awareness, and we will be promoting that app to residents as much as we can, but it's basically a great resource for the community, the residents, to find out what's going on in the village, where and what time, and all of that.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly think having some sort of presence at the Kickstand Classic for that would be great, because people could walk right up to a table or a booth or a tent, and you could actually have volunteers showing people how to start to access the app, if in fact it's going to be ready right away.
We'll see.
Okay.
We're hoping it will be soon.
Coming soon,
Yes.
sort of thing.
Along with our directory, yes.
Okay, item number 8 on the agenda would be the fall 2016 dining guide.
Let me turn that on. You have the new dining guides before you. This was an initiative that staff began back, I looked it up today wondering when the first one was, 2011, in conjunction with the Economic Development Commission. We started this really in the throes of the recession, and a lot of restaurants in town were struggling and closing at the time. And this is just a small, simple document, but we update it every year. I bring it before the EDC every year. Usually I do it in the summer, but one of my running half jokes about it is I try to time it at a point when a new business is open, or if something that I might have heard is closing. Try to time it when the restaurants are steady, at least for a period of a few months. So that being said, with this one, if you could open it up to where it looks with the pretty picture of the happy couple dining, that's called, on the front, the two changes to that are Piatanza's, which is a new restaurant over on Army Trail Road. They weren't in there last year. That had been vacant space, but prior to that it had been several other pizza restaurants. And also, as I mentioned this earlier, our Thai restaurant is gone, so Thai Gourmet was in it last year. If you look to the interior of it, the changes since last year are the Jersey Mike's was added. That's where Quiznos used to be located in Apple Valley Center. Delicious, I want to mention, was in it last year. They closed for about 4 months. I was thinking of making a new one earlier this year without them, but then when I started working with them, I knew he was going to reopen. So I'm glad to say he's in there. And then one of the calls was, one of the delays on this one was the situation with O'Hare's Pub. So they were in there last year, but on their Army Trail location, and I've just added them. I've spoken with Bill and already added him into that. Instead of putting coming soon or something like that, if somebody sees this and walks over there and sees it's coming soon but not open, maybe they'll just go next door and eat somewhere. So those are the changes. I did look at them, the dining guides, 2011 through 2015, and I can tell you there's been about a 50% turnover, but there's some of the anchors, the nationals, the Pasta Mias and TLs, they've been in there since the beginning, since the first time we printed this in 2011. I hope you all grabbed a stack. I didn't used to do this, but I would like if every commissioner took a stack and then either put it in your place of business or hand it out to your neighbors or whatever it is you want to do with it. I ordered 1,500 of them. I wrote my notes of where we hand them out. Village Hall, the Chamber of Commerce office. I walk them around downtown businesses that aren't restaurants, because you can't ask two toots to promote Delicious and vice versa. Arts in Bartlett, we always drop off a big stack there. Also the library, the aquatic center, and then our two big box retailers that we have, the Jewel and the Home Depot. So you'll see these around town, And just happy to report to you that it's getting harder and harder to fit. The font keeps getting smaller and smaller every year because we have to fit more in there. If a few more restaurants come in over the next year, as I suspect they will, then probably start fiddling around with it a little bit more. I don't need to say that McDonald's is fast food. I've taken that off of. You'll notice some of them don't really have much of a description, and that was just because of, like I said, taking it off for space purposes. But we could, of course, enlarge the size of the dining guide and make it 4 folds instead of 3, which is probably what you'll see next year. That's my report on the dining guide, and like I said, please hand those out and share them.
Go eat.
Yeah, and eat in town. This is on the village website. I'll add also. On the village website, it's an interactive map.
Good. Any new business, Tony?
There's a little bit, and I've mentioned a lot of them already, but what I did today was I printed this out for you with some of the photos. I write the Zone for Business column in the Bartlett, and this is basically what I wrote today. So I mentioned the 3 businesses already to you in Town Center, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. And you can see the stylists at Lionhead Barber Parlor. There's a picture of Kevin Rouse. I met with him today right across the street, the new Allstate office. There's the new and improved and expanded location for Ultimate Travel. And then last but not least, that's the exterior shot of the vaping shop. I chose that instead of the picture of the 500 different vapors. That's all the new business for this month.
Okay, well, it appears at this point, if anybody wants to make a motion to adjourn, we can entertain that thought.
I move to adjourn?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Hey.